Caribbean. Thank you very much.
I thank the Speaker of Nicaragua and now give the floor to the Speaker of Israel, followed by Ukraine and Peru.
Madam President, yesterday this hall witnessed an unacceptable display of disrespect when the Cuban delegation attempted to silence the United States during its statement. The blatant abuse of a point of order was a clear affront to the dignity and procedures of this institution. It is very unfortunate, though not surprising, to see such misuse of procedural rules in an attempt to undermine the core values of the United Nations, including freedom of speech. Thank you.
I thank the Speaker of of Israel. I now give the floor to the Speaker of Ukraine, followed by Peru and Romania.
Madam President, Ukraine voted against the draft resolution L.6. This decision reflects our growing concern over Cuba's involvement in Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. Let me be clear, this vote is not against the Cuban people. On the contrary, we deeply value the Cuban nation, and we respect its right to live in prosperity. For many decades, Ukrainians and Cubans have been connected by genuine human bonds. Our vote is against the inaction of Cuba's government in the face of recruitment of its citizens into Russia's military, which brings death and devastation to Ukraine. There is no secret that since 2022, to sustain its aggression, Russia has been actively recruiting foreign citizens to fight in its ongoing war against Ukraine. Among them, nationals of the Republic of Cuba constitute the largest group of mercenaries serving in the Russian army. I repeat, the largest group. Our defense forces have taken numerous Cuban nationals as prisoners of war, fighting alongside Russian troops. At least several thousand Cuban citizens have signed contracts joining the ranks of soldiers directly engaged in combat operations on Ukrainian soil. This massive recruitment is not a matter of isolated Cuban individuals acting on their own. No, it's a systematic practice involving illicit networks that operate openly with the knowledge and, we must conclude, with tacit condemnation of the authorities in Havana. Madam President, Cuban citizens are drawn into Russia's war through deception, financial incentives, or ideological motives rooted in Moscow's narrative of the so-called historic brotherhood. Russia tries to justify these activities by portraying its military invasion as an alleged anti-colonial struggle. In fact, the recruitment of mercenaries to wage an aggressive war is yet another manifestation of Russia's neo-colonial and imperial policy, exploiting both foreign citizens and its own indigenous minority peoples as cannon fodder. There is no justification for such legal actions. The General Assembly has qualified them as an aggression in violation of the UN Charter that must cease immediately. Yet the principles of the Charter do not appear to guide Cuba, whose president wished Putin success in special military operation against Ukraine. Let me ask bluntly, what kind of success does Havana wish to Moscow? Success in annihilating Ukrainians, success in destroying energy infrastructure on the eve of winter, or success in causing an environmental disaster? That is precisely what Russia has been doing in Ukraine with the support of Cuban mercenaries serving in the ranks of the Russian army. Madam President, this massive recruitment of Cuban mercenaries must be taken very seriously. It is often carried out through a network of companies that maintain connections with local criminal groups and corrupt officials. Despite all the statements that we heard of Cuba's government rejecting claims of its involvement in Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, the systematic deployment of Cuban citizens has not been interrupted. Cuba's declared zero-tolerance policy towards mercenarism is just a fairy tale that clearly contradicts the facts on the ground, as the number of Cuban mercenaries remains very high. Madam President, let me conclude. The unwillingness of Cuba's government to stop massive recruitment of its nationals in the Russian war against Ukraine constitutes complicity in aggression and must be condemned in stronger terms. For this reason, Ukraine voted against the draft resolution L.6. Thank you.
I thank the Speaker of Ukraine. I now give the floor to the Speaker of Peru, followed by Romania.